Hey friend, in this video, I'm going to be giving you 3 simple watercolor ideas that will get you out of your creative rut. Anybody can do these. So if you're a beginner, intermediate, more advanced watercolorist, this video is geared towards helping you understand simple ways to just put paint on paper and give you 3 ideas that can help you achieve that right now, today. So if you're ready, let's get started. All right, so as always, supplies that I'm using in this video are linked below. I'm gonna start off with, we're doing 3 ideas for, what are we doing? We're doing 3 different ideas today using watercolor. I'm gonna do 1 pattern, 1 floral, and 1 landscape. So simple, easy watercolor ideas that are gonna change your practice up a little bit, maybe help you think more about technique and color instead of just like, what do I paint? I need to look online and figure out what to paint by looking at other people's work. So let's practice some shapes first, patterns. So I'm gonna be using my round brush size 16 by Princeton Heritage 4050. I always use these brushes because I love them. But we're gonna do a simple pattern. Before we do that though, I'm just gonna give you some visual ideas before, just for context. 1 second. Okay, so I paint a ton of patterns for licensing jobs with partners like baby mat companies, stationery companies, office supply companies, etc. And we have this fun rainbow pattern, upside down U-shaped pattern, and these little like half moony things that are all really fun and great ideas, simple ideas that you can use to switch up your practice a little bit. And as I'm painting this first idea, we're going to be doing a U-shaped pattern like this one. I'm going to be giving you pointers on when I choose specific colors and why, so that hopefully helps you out. All right, so I'm going to grab my size 16 round brush and start painting these pretty little U's. All right, so with my round brush, I'm just going to load up with some water and then grab a lot of this opera rose. You can start with whatever color, but I'm going to show you the technique first, and then I'm going to talk about the colors I choose and why. But all I'm going to be doing is painting these upside down U shapes. I want to have a slanted hold on my brush and use the belly of the brush as my stroke instead of pointing it this way, because then I would have a pointed end to my U shapes. I want a flat end with my U shapes, so I'm going to use a slanted hold and then also use the belly of the brush to create the stroke. And I'm just going to lay down a simple U shape. I'm going to be using wet and wet technique. So if you haven't seen our video on how to use wet and wet and wet and dry and when to use the 2 techniques, make sure you go watch that. But I'm basically making sure all my U shapes stay really wet so that when I add in my next U shape, I'm going to have them touch each other right on the edge, just kind of like they're touching shoulders or hips, so that you can see a fun little bleed. These colors are very similar in hue, so the bleed isn't as obvious as if we were to do something really light or really dark next to each other, or like a blue and yellow. Once I've started my pattern, after about 1 or 2 swatches or U's or whatever I'm painting with my pattern, I start to think about color. So I just laid down orange. Orange's contrasting color is blue, and I don't really want to add in that much strain or vibrancy to the piece right here because this pink is so bright, this orange is so bright, so I don't want to introduce that just yet. But if I shift from, if you think about a color wheel, if blue is over here and orange is over here, because contrasting colors are directly opposite of each other on the color wheel, then we have, if we just keep going towards yellow with our blue, and we have maybe a yellow green, that still has a twinge of blue in it, so it can reference the contrast, but it's closer to yellow, which is closer to orange on the color wheel. So if I do a little yellow green, that will be a more related color to the orange because orange has yellow in it. And then I can introduce a blue, like a turquoise maybe. I might even add a little bit of this lemon yellow deep to the turquoise to make this yellow green kind of just easily blend into the turquoise bluish green color. So they are really close together on the color wheel. All of these hues right now are very saturated with color, so I'm just gonna do a lighter color right now to help break that up. And they're all super vibrant, bold colors. So I'm gonna do more of an earth tone to break up that vividness. Nice bleed. I want it to be a little bit more tan, so I'm gonna grab some yellow and just go back over this a little bit. Now let's introduce kind of a gray. I've got Prussian blue with a touch of Mars black in here, and I'm gonna use a lot of water to make it light. So we're just painting these U shapes. And I'm doing some Opera Rose with lemon yellow deep. Love that color to bring in this Opera Rose again throughout that line. All I'm doing is some basic U shapes. It makes a really fun pattern. My licensing partners love these U-shape patterns. So I paint them quite often, and it's really just dependent on the scope of the job, the color palette that they want for the specific program or product that is going on. Sometimes people want more muted color palettes, but the same principles will apply. I'm thinking about contrasting colors and how colors are cooperating with each other on the page. Making sure to zigzag my colors, so I'm not gonna have orange directly on top of orange and all of that. I'm making sure to zigzag my colors. So right here, I'm gonna introduce a contrasting color right next to this orange because I want to continue to pull people's eyes down. But instead of doing the equal amount of saturation with my blue next to this orange, I'm gonna grab this cobalt blue and I'm going to lighten it. So this orange is going to be stronger than the blue. Nice bleed. Now let's do some purple to pull the blue out and into pink. Maybe do a reddish pink hue with Scarlet Lake and Opera Rose. Red's contrast is green, so instead of doing a direct contrast, I'm going to do a yellow-green. And some yellow. You could also do this with swatches, where you just have, so let's pretend we finished that whole page with the pattern, but you could also do a pattern that's just basic strokes. So just start at the top and work down. Focus on just touching in one little area for a little bleed using wet and wet. And it's all about color. Yellow, green. Let's do some pinky orange color to reference that contrast. It's like little stacks of candies. And then you can start your next row below this and go close to the bottom so that you have some bleed going there. if you struggle with color theory, that's the one place where I recommend anybody learning or wanting to grow with their watercolor practice that they do more research and study and practice in color theory, because it informs all of your decisions. If you're painting a pattern, if you're, painting floral, landscapes, whatever it is, and you need inspiration, color should be what informs your steps. And we have a color chart video that is super helpful for you getting familiar with how color works and harmonizes with other colors. So I highly recommend you check out that video if you're feeling like you need help in that area. The best recommendation I have for color theory is just to not overthink it and to think about contrasting colors and how you can offset the strain as much as possible. So literally moving the color over a hue on the color wheel will help take that strain off of your piece. And in my book, Everyday Watercolor, I have a large section on color theory in the introduction. So also, we'll have the link to that below in the description if you want to check it out. And because I'm all about the freebies, I have a free introduction to floral watercolor booklet that has a good section on it as well. So we'll link all these things below so you can check them out. This would be quite pretty on a phone case, just saying. Okay, so there's our patterns. Next, I'm going to show you a really easy floral piece. All right, so for a basic floral, we're going to just do some tulips, or these could be a really basic peony, but 3 strokes is all you need. And we're going to use the same brush as the pattern. And we are going to point towards the stem of the flower for the petals, with a slanted hold about 35 degrees away from the paper. So this would be where the stem is. We're gonna point, drag, and curve in as we lift the brush off the paper. And then do the same thing, but curve the opposite way. And leave a little bit of a gap of white space, curve in. There's one of our petals. Then I might grab a little more pink for this next petal so it's not the same hue as the first one. Point, and instead of curving in, we're just going to drag and lift up. And then same hue, but a little lighter, so I'm washing my brush off. And same thing on this side. Point, drag, and lift off. Got a little bud. And then we can add our stem. I'm going to use yellow-green because we have some pink in here. I don't want to use too much of a mid-tone green. I want a yellow-green so it brightens that pink a little bit. But we can just use the point of the brush, pull a stem out. And for our leaves, I'm going to point my brush towards the stem, overlap that stem with a thin stroke, so no pressure on my brush, and then apply pressure so the brush fans out, and release. Let's do a couple more of these florals. So point towards the stem, curve in, lift, curve in, lift, point, curve in, point, curve in. Let's do one over here, point, curve in, point, curve in. cuties. And then we want all of our stems to lead to our petals where they're pointing. It's kind of a loose bundle of flowers. And then we add our leaves. Okay, I'd go back in here and add a few more blooms after doing the leaves, but it's really simple to do these florals. They're just 3 petals. Point towards the center for all of those petals. The base of those petals need to all be pointing to where the stem is, and have fun with it. Next, I'm going to show you how to do a basic or simple landscape. All right, so for our basic landscape, I'm going to use the same brush, and I want this like morning view over some sort of body of water, like a lake or ocean even, with a little cliff or mountain top in the back. And so because I know that the little cliff or mountain or whatever is in the background, I'm gonna make it a really kind of like light blue-gray to show that morning misty effect, and that it's in the background, so I'm making it really light. So I'm mixing up some Prussian blue with a touch of Mars Black, and I'm going to release a lot of that pigment in my water so I can make it really light. And I'm just gonna start with a slanted hold, so I'm close to the paper with my brush handle, and I'm just going to give it this edge here. Make a little mountain silhouette shape. Then I'm gonna release all of that pigment off of my brush and grab a lot of water on it and just pull that down to make it, let's extend this mountain actually. So I'm pulling this color down with just water on my brush so it makes it fade from dark to light. And we can kind of help it out a little bit too. And then from here, I'm going to start painting my water. I'm going to add some turquoise to that blue-gray mixture I just used for the mountain. I'm going to brush it right up against the bottom of this mountain to watch it bleed. Just do a little line across. And some really easy strokes where I'm leaving gaps where my paper is showing through, because that's going to be like little reflections in the water where the light is hitting. Then I'm just going back in with some turquoise and I'm really accentuating the edges of my color right underneath where gaps of paper are showing through. Maybe grab some Prussian blue for up here. Then I'm gonna start moving down into blue-green. Grab some water and keep doing these really simple kind of dry strokes. Do a few and then grab some yellow-green using phthalo turquoise and lemon yellow deep and going back into these areas. Maybe a little more turquoise. There we go. Getting more and more yellow as I reach the shore. Then I'm going to get this big area of wash right here. It's kind of like a thin layer of water on the sand. And then the sand color is going to be lemon yellow deep with a touch of yellow ochre. And we're just gonna hug the edge of that wet wash and let it bleed into it. Then I'm going to go back and touch up some of these wavy areas with a dark blue using Prussian blue and a touch of Mars Black. So like there. All right. Let's make this mountain a little bit more smoky. If you want to add a sky, you can just lay down a wash. Since we were really strokey for the water, let's make this also really strokey. I'm just using water, leaving little gaps of paper, just like I did for the ocean. If I run into the mountain, that's okay. Creates a nice fun bleed effect. And then on the areas of my paper where I see the white gaps showing through, I'm going to go back in and grab some of this turquoise mixture and accentuate those areas a bit. So I'm just underlining the white space because that white space is going to be my clouds. Underlining and outlining it on the top as well. Maybe poking in some yellow bits. All right, folks, there you have it. Some very simple and also very fun ideas for watercolor, a pattern, a floral, and a landscape. So I hope that was fun and insightful for you and helps you loosen up when you're practicing, because so many artists especially beginners, overthink all of their steps, their next steps when they approach the paper, a blank sheet of paper, and they're like, I don't know what to do. So I hope that just gets your wheels turning and inspiration flowing so that next time you pick up a brush, it just flows right out of you. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you comment below. Let me know which, if you practiced it, any of these, which one was your favorite to paint. I would love to know, so hit me up below and I'll see you in the next video.